Hey, this is Gary King here. I wanted to do another recap video using some old footage, various interviews and clips that have come out over a good few years now. There's a load more that we could put in, but if you can't get the message from this, I guess you never will. Now, with everything that's going on around our realm at the moment, especially the latter part of 2024, we're seeing things just really amping up. And this is all part of this agenda. There are other people out there who've done much more in-depth videos than I could ever imagine putting together. So big thumbs up to them, and for also helping us in the early stages see. Now, there's lots of ways of looking at these things. You know, Matt from Quantum, I like the way he looks at things. Obviously, The Call, Herding Humanity, all those sites. But just listen to what these characters are saying. And if you like these videos, you know, and you're on the same path as we are, please, you know, share these videos, put them on your own channels. The more you put out, the more we come together. Comments are great, but actions speak louder than words. Arguing on YouTube videos is never going to help. So, you know, share these videos, put them out, and try and get other people to understand exactly how we are looked upon, and work it out from there. Anyway, we're only here for a short time, so thanks for listening in. Keep the faith, and what we do today will guide us through the next part of this journey.
The hope for mankind is to stabilize and preferably reduce population, and above all, not to go hell for leather for economic growth. I'm just reading about the sheer, as it were, geometric increase in the world population. I just say to myself, and I believe that for the next 20 years, that unless something is done about population, most other efforts will fail. And so, in fact, I went off and spent the first several years of my career working on population issues in Washington and in New York, and eventually we set up an organization called the UN Fund for Population Activities, which aimed, you know, to help developing countries deal with their population issues. So yes, for me that was the economic growth. Whereas if you have a declining population, which is what I would aim for, then of course even a stable economic growth situation will give you increases in per capita income. So that's where I stand on that.
Do you have a sense of what the carrying capacity of Britain is, or of the world as a whole? Or?
Well, Britain, I put it at 10 or 15 million. I think that would be absolutely fine. I mean, that would do us really splendidly. At a limit, 2025, I think it's complete nonsense that we are now confronted with an island, would you believe it, of 70 million people. I wrote a paper, I think it's the only...
At the basis of it all is this colossal increase in the human population. It's one of the living species of the planet, but it's reaching plague proportions.
The growing human population. Because if where we are, there's nothing else.
And do you have views about what should be done about that?
Can't you guess?
Well, it could be on a spectrum from mass sterilisation to you know, greater availability of contraception. I don't know what your views are as to what can be done about it.
Well, I think it might be described as voluntary family limitation. Can't you guess?
I have no doubt that the fundamental source of all our problems, particularly our environmental problems, is population growth. I can't think of a single problem that wouldn't be easier to solve if there were less people. and we all know about geometric growth. That, if we were able, which of course we can't, if we were able to stem it, we might be able to have a better chance to grapple with the problems that we've got at the moment. But we can't. The best we can do is to slow down the rate of increase. We certainly can't stop it.
Just living space. There is, alas, no third alternative of indefinite growth. The sooner we stabilize our numbers, the sooner we stop running up the down escalator. Stop population increase, stop the escalator, and we have some chance of reaching the top. That's to say, a decent life for all. In my view, all countries should develop a population policy. Some 70 countries already have them in one form or another, and give it priority. The essential common factor is to make family planning and other reproductive health services freely available to everyone, and empower and encourage them to use it, though of course without any kind of coercion. The aim should be to reduce over time both the consumption of natural resources per person and the number of people, while, needless to say, using the best technology to help maintain living standards. It's tragic that the only current population policies in developed countries are, perversely, attempting to increase their birth rate in order to look after the growing number of old people. The notion of ever more old people needing ever more young people, who in turn will grow old and need ever more young people, and so on ad infinitum, is an obvious ecological Ponzi scheme.
We've got the video clip from the TED Talk, and Bill Gates says exactly that.
Somehow we have to make changes that will bring that down to zero. This equation has four factors, a little bit of multiplication. So you've got a thing on the left, CO2, that you want to get to zero, and that's going to be based on the number of people, the services each person's using on average, the energy on average for each service, and the CO2 being put out per unit of energy. So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to zero. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. That's back from high school algebra, but let's take a look. First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
Hold up, what? So you've got all these different factors, the people and the services they're using and then this and then that. So you got to bring one of these numbers down to zero. You want to bring population? That doesn't sound good. Okay, and how are we going to reduce the population? Well, if we do a really good job on healthcare, by healthcare I think he means abortion. It's pretty clear, or contraception or something. At the very least, contraception. And if we do a really, really good job on reproductive services, that's just another dishonest euphemism to mean abortion. Okay, reproductive's okay if you bring that. And if we do a really good job on vaccines, then we can bring that number down. Wait, what? I thought vaccines are supposed to improve health. I thought vaccines were supposed to allow more people to live longer.
The rise in billionaires has been, unprecedented during the pandemic, and there's been several sectors where that has been mostly concentrated, and one is in fact the pharma sector, because COVID has been one of the most profitable products ever. So that's one point to discuss, and our report out today is called Profiting from Pain. And the statistic we're saying is every 30 hours, a new billionaire was minted during the pandemic. And the same rate, in 2022, 1 million people are falling into extreme poverty. Every 33 hours, 1 million people are dropping into extreme poverty across the world. So that shows us just how much the world is diverging and inequality is growing, and it's really worrying, you know, in a battle for survival. So I think that needs to come first. And this is really our message here. We need to think about how extreme wealth, because there is extreme wealth, that the hopeful part of all of this is that wealth exists in the world. It's just very badly distributed. So we need to think about how we have a rethink and tax wealth, because we tax income. Wealth is taxed in very few countries. So there is an opportunity there. It's small percentages, 2% to 5%. In fact, there's lots of millionaires,